Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to have a chat about Tana Mongeau. Whatever her name is. Tana. I think that's how you pronounce it. With my Australian accent, it might be, I'm probably slaying it. But anyway, we're going to have a chat about Tana and all the criticism surrounding her and racism.
You know you're a stupid nigger, right? You fucking nigger! You fucking nigger!
All of this blew out of proportion a couple of weeks ago when iDubbbz did a content cop on her. It was when he went to one of her...
We're going on a road trip. We're going to see Tana Mongeau at the Tana Mongeau concert in San Francisco. She tweeted some really nice things at me. Road trip! Just a quick little pit stop.
Anyway, he went there to prove a point because, as he suspected, that she was a complete fraud. She was going around using her Twitter name as Black Lives Matter.
I mean, honestly, would I make my Twitter name Black Lives Matter for months when everyone was telling me to change it? You fucking nigger! If I wasn't such a giant fucking advocate for Black Lives Matter. You fucking nigger!
Publicly criticized him and told him that he should kill himself for using the N-word. He goes much more in depth and much more juicier that the fact that she was going live on You Now saying that it's not the context that you use the word, it's just using the word in general.
It doesn't matter the context that you say it in, it's still racist.
That is not, it is completely incorrect. I will link in the description iDubbbz's original video. It's got over 10 million views now and it's crazy. He's gotten about 500,000 subscribers from this one video, and he's going to probably hit 4 million subscribers within the next couple of weeks. Good on him. I reckon he deserves it. His videos are totally on point. His videos, his commentary, the way his views on people, his research that he does, rather than actually retaliating with anger and no receipts, he actually goes through and does it properly. He literally goes through with a fine-tooth comb and completely destroys you, as per Leafy that we saw a few months ago, or I think it was last year, end of last year, somewhere like that. Anyway, on topic with Tana, everyone was waiting for her apology video because he completely destroyed her. Everything she stands for, or she pretended to stand for and pretended to know about, and apparently she was an activist by using her platform to educate the world on slavery, which was completely wrong. Like, dude, like, all you need to do is type in slavery in Wikipedia and you can do it for yourself. Don't listen to some 18-year-old bimbo who has no idea what she's talking about on YouTube, and I suggest to do the same with me. Like, go and watch the videos, make your own assumptions, your own opinion, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But within Australia, there is racism. It's a different type of racism than what I assume America has. Me being a coloured person, I'm not saying that I'm a different type of shade or whatever. I have experienced racism my entire life. A few stories that I had when I was... that really cemented that feeling of being isolated and different from everyone else was when I went to a private primary school when I was younger. We went to a Catholic private school and we were assembling to go out for a meeting with the principal, the whole class. I think I was in year 2, and there was a cockroach on the wall. And everyone was freaking out about it. Even I was freaking out about it. Like, when you're 2 years old, some insects you just don't want to go near, and completely you are petrified. And obviously cockroaches are brown. And some kid yelled out, "Oh, Chanel, you go get the cockroach since it's the same color as you. You're not scared of it." And that really hurt my feelings, like, as a child. I was petrified of this thing. This thing was dirty and ugly. And someone associated it with me because it was the color of my skin. Anyway, as the story goes on, I started crying, and then the teacher took me out and pulled me aside and said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because that kid said something, I forget his name now, but the incident is still like cemented in my mind." He's like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, "Because he hurt my feelings." And he goes, "But you don't have feelings." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You don't have feelings. You shouldn't be crying about this. Don't worry about it." This was a teacher telling a 6-year-old not to cry after a kid just said something so horrendous to another child. I was the only dark person in my class, and said I didn't have feelings. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Anyway, at that point, as a child, as a sponge, you kind of think, holy shit, nobody's on your side. So for somebody like Tana Mongeau to say that she's all about Black Lives Matter and racism, she's the one using the N-word, to use it as a negative, apparently to her friends, saying you F and N. But now she said in her newest apology video that it was her black friend behind the camera.
So basically, long story short, there are a few videos of me as a freshman in high school calling my best friend Amari, who is black, the N-word, and he's filming me. You fucking nigger! Of course I knew what it meant. My friend was black, and all of my friends thought it was so funny to say like slurs to him and stupid shit because it was shocking and funny. And then I grew up and I learned the pain behind that word and the depth behind that word and the history behind that word. And I knew it was wrong, and I was ashamed of my past, and I thought that it was easier to just pretend like I had no idea.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that you're telling your friend that you're a fucking slave. You're angry at your friend who was recording you, you fucking slave. I really find that hard to believe that the person behind the camera didn't actually feel offended by that, regardless if you're her friend or that person was her friend or not. That is that's rage that she was saying, in a complete disregard for that person, no empathy whatsoever. She may not actually be a racist. I don't think that Tana is actually a racist, but she's trying to put out a message saying that society is desensitized to racism. And she kind of has a point in a way, but we are sensitized to racism as well. You can't just put a generalization on the entire world and say we're desensitized to it. Well, you can't really say that because everyone grows up in a different household, different family values. I mean, when I went home and told my mother about what that teacher said, do you think anything was done? No, my mother told me to brush it off because she knew that this was the life that I was going to actually grow up in. Back in the 80s, where in Australia, there really wasn't that many different other Polynesians that were around at that time. It wasn't until the early 90s that New Zealand and Small Polynesians started to actually migrate to Australia a lot. And at that point, when my parents came here, my family followed in suit, as in my aunties and uncles. But again, there wasn't really that many other children with the same skin tone or even darker skin tone than what I had experienced. So I know the full brunt of what Australia had to offer in the 80s when it came to racism. So I don't believe it's more so that people are racist. It's just that people are intimidated to things they don't know and aren't familiar with, and that is also people with colour. Just because you use racist slander doesn't necessarily make you a racist, right? It just makes you a complete idiot. Because I can say some mean shit to any colour, right? But does that make me a complete racist? Does that make me a feminist? Does that make me a Nazi? No, it doesn't. It just makes me a complete dipshit. I'm not too sure. Like, comment in the section below if you feel that people are quick to say you're racist to differentiate from people who say stupid shit. I mean, in the 21st century, mainly with the internet, we're able to say whatever we want without any consequences, because at the end of the day we don't have to look at the comments. We really don't. We could disable them if we want to, but a lot of people are sensitive these days. They want to do something good, but they have no direction in their life. So a lot of people claim to be activists and say, I'm all for Black Lives Matter, but actually don't do anything for that cause. You might say that, like, saying that you are all about stopping racism, but what are you doing to that cause? What are you doing to actually call yourself an activist? I mean, I'm of colour, but I don't actually do anything for people in my situation. And that's pretty low of me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to do more, because I don't want little children to go through the same thing as what I did back in the 80s. However though, with Australia now, we're all about multicultural, and as I've become an adult, there's certain types of people who will blatantly just say something racist. But again, since I've had it my entire life, it's like water off a duck's back now. I'll initially get really angry about it, but I won't come out and say something in retaliation. There's no point. There is no point. Two hates make a right. There's no two wrongs make a right. There's no point in doing that. And when it comes to Tana, when all the videos that came out when she was younger, blurting these words, come on now. When we were in high school, we said the same stuff without any thought of consequences, because you're young, right? You are young. You don't think about consequences. You think you're what's the word I'm saying? Invincible. When you're younger, you think you're invincible. You don't care about the consequences. Bring it on. You don't really give a shit. But as you get older, I think your empathy starts to play a big part in your personality. And that's the problem with society these days, is that we have no empathy. We're not apologetic about the things we do. Everybody can be an anybody. Everybody has their own rights, which is the truth. Everybody has the right to say what they feel. If you're sensitive to that, that is your prerogative, that you do you, right? But at the end of the day, we can't change how people feel inside. We can only change how people react in certain situations, or how people could go home and still be a racist at heart. You shouldn't actually go around like calling other people racist because they use specific words. I don't feel that that's correct. It's really, people who are racist are very hateful people, and there's a reason why they're racist. It could be their upbringing, their culture, it could be their family values. You don't know. But unless they don't hurt me personally, I don't care what they do. You shouldn't care what they say. But that's in Australia scenario. It's not talking about America with all the issues with racism, the government, police brutality, people getting killed just for the color of their skin. I'm not in that type of situation or in that environment or that country to really understand the ramifications of what that's like to live. But I can only assume, based on what I've lived with racism, that it must be an absolutely awful existence to always have, like, looking on your left and right to see if something's going to happen. But on one spectrum, if you want people to see you differently, you need to act differently. I mean, I might be saying some things that might offend some people, but at the end of the day, it's the truth. Like, if you're going to talk like a dumbass, if you're going to talk like a racist, you're going to be treated like one. And a lot of people can't get out of the situations that they're in, where brutality and abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse because of the color of your skin, you cannot get out of that, because you're so used to that situation, and you feel like there's no hope for you to get out. Those are the people who truly need help. And for me in Australia, I've got it pretty cushy to those people in America, so I can't really comment on that type of situation, if you know what I mean. But I still feel like what Tana has done isn't as bad as what the people who are actually brutally physically, emotionally abusing actual black people in America. She's just a naive, money-hungry, stupid idiot. She just wanted to hide the fact that she was ignorant. She did say in some of her videos that she was ignorant and she was a child, but then she kind of blurred the lines and kind of lied her way out of it so she could just brush it off and move on with her life, saying that nobody told her it was bad. I kind of find that hard to believe, that she didn't know the N-word was a derogatory word. And again, like with the IDOBS, he said that we hold certain words with such high standard that if you say it enough, it loses all meaning, which is the truth. It does lose meaning, but it still hurts those people who are of colour. I mean, again, IDOBS saying that we hold this word so high, but the F word, the F-bomb, the C-bomb, they're all bad just as much. But you can say that, being a white person, that we shouldn't hold them and we should treat us like people. But again, the N-word to black Americans is a very touchy word. Some people don't care because, again, they're desensitized to the word, but others still care because the ones that do care, I can feel it's like, we're not slaves anymore. Don't call us the N-word. We don't want to be called the N-word. But again, if you don't want to be called the N-word, stop using the N-word yourselves, because then you're actually confusing other people whether or not we could be able to use the word, if you know what I mean. So everybody's doing the wrong thing. Nobody's really doing the right thing, and this is where the problem is, why white people get offended by the word, because they don't want to be associated with being racist. Does that make them racist? No. So I don't feel that Tana is a racist person. I just think she's ignorant and she's stupid. I think that she's trying to look like she's a good person and trying too hard to seem like a good person for Black Lives Matter because she's trying to get subscribers. And you know what? That's pretty much what all YouTubers do, but she's chose to use the activist path to get subs and to get liked. So at the end of the day, she is a liar. She uses slander, racist slander, as a way to get subscribers, and she's learnt her lesson. I don't think that now, after everything that's happened, that she will be doing anything like this ever again. If she does, all this will come up and blow up in her face. But the problem here is that black lives do matter, and people who say all lives matter, that is true as well. But the reason why there's such such a high standard for the people who say Black Lives Matter is because of how they're treated because of the color of their skin. White people can also have the same thing as well in predominantly black or colored areas, suburbs. If you spot the white person, I'm sure they would feel what it's like to be a black person in America, right? Even if you are of an upstanding citizen, you still have that thing, that inkling in the back of your head that people are looking at you differently because you're black. I can understand that because in Australia I still get funny looks, but we're never really going to ever get over racism. There's always going to be divides between races. There's always going to be divides against skin color, men, women. It's always going to happen. It's always a competition with people to either have a better life, more money, better children, more children. It's human nature to want to compete with other people. And it's just for us, the younger generations, those who actually care about all lives, as well as black lives, need to understand that if we want to change the future, we have to change with it. We actually have to do things. We can't just sit at home, do a YouTube video and expect that we're helping. It actually is a little bit of help because we're actually out there trying to spread the word. I'm not an activist. I'm not claiming to be an activist. It's just my opinion on the whole situation with Tana, racism, what it's like in Australia, and how I can assume what it's like in America. It's from what I've seen, what I've read, all the news articles with Trump. I'm not going to get into it because I am not that educated when it comes to American politics. I know enough to know that you're in a bad situation as it already is. But I just hope that we all can just love each other and not be so sensitive to everybody and not quick to point the finger and say you're a racist when you don't know what's it like inside for the person. Again, what is the term racism in the first place? If you don't know what racism is, then don't go pointing your finger and calling someone else a racist. That's just pretty stupid, right? Anyway, those are my thoughts on racism and Tana Mongeau. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Again, I'm not here really to piss anybody off or to make a fight in the comment section. It's just my opinion based on what's going on and kind of understanding the situation. But again, when you say that one word is more heavy than the other, don't assume that word still doesn't hurt those people. I mean, I love IDOPs to death, but saying that word, I'm just going to treat them like human beings. You're one person out of a pool of millions and billions of people. There's a lot more people out there that use that N-word very negative, and using it every single day in your videos without any conscious thought behind it, that's your prerogative. You do you. But it still hurts some people, and I'm assuming it hurts a lot of other people out there. Anyway, peace out, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.